Hello, people. Hope everybody's well. I've got two ladies joining me tonight on the show because, as some of you may know, I started with a group that invited me to talk at the demos and things, and we've got a really big following. We've got a lot more women coming out on the street. So now I think it's good if we can promote these ladies that are now coming out, starting their own groups, encouraging other women and families in their area to join in. So I'd like you to welcome Claire and Sara. And can you ladies introduce yourself and what you do and why you do it and what group you're part of?
Yes, I'm Sara, and I started the group Lionesses United Northeast, and this was obviously to speak about the truth and share what I thought was my truth, and to look into providing a platform for other women to meet each other, talk to each other, and make friends and discuss what they thought was their truth and give them a platform for it, really. So I was basically just opening the door, and then all of the ladies started pouring in, and I met Claire and loved what she was already doing. And then we started to meet up in groups and talk more about, the things that are happening in the world at the minute, lockdown, vaccines, potential vaccine passports, masked children in schools, maybe even an epidemic of mental health concerns for our children, which was absolutely terrifying. And I was absolutely passionate about socialising my children with other like-minded women, because obviously socialising children is really important in their development, and so that's one of the reasons why I started the group. So that was it. Claire, if you want to talk about your group as well, because your group's amazing and what you do.
Thanks, Sara. So my name is Claire Robinson. For those of you yet to meet, I am a lifestyle coach, NLP and timeline practitioner. So I help men, women and children with any mental health issues. So from stress, anxiety, depression, through to traumas, sexual abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, anything really that's going on up here that's stopping you from being happy and living life you love. So I do lots of various things, and I've got a group called Empowering Women, and I set this up in 2018, so 2.5 years ago, and I just wanted to save space for women to come together so they could support each other in business. But we ended up having all types of women come together. I'd have women come in where they just had a child and they're like, I just need some human contact. So we've got all different types of women that come. We do online meetings, offline meetings. But what's lovely is we have a group of awake women who are all just wanting the best for their children. So every Sunday we meet up and we are all about the kids, and it's all about fun, freedom, happiness, joy, hugs, connection, love. We literally have games of volleyball and rounders and tag and stick in the mud. And we have the music on the beach and we're literally dancing high five tunes, and literally everyone around us are you can see them moving, they're starting dancing. We're like, come and join us. It's just so much fun, and I think especially these last 12 months we have been stripped of fun in our society, and life should always be fun, and people now don't know what it feels like to be happy, which is really sad. So we're just pulling that back into how life should be.
What I love about a lot of the groups that are setting up, especially in this last year, because a lot more people have woken up during all of this episode of what the lockdowns and everything else, and all the systems that we used to were breaking down, and all the groups, all the facilities that people were used to, that they were thin on the ground as they were, resources and everything else, and what this has done is it's made people realize that they have to go back to grassroots, which is finding people in their own areas, which is where your groups essentially come from, isn't it? It's not that you're feminists and you hate men and you're excluding men from all of this either, is it? It's just that women with children and lockdowns and no schools and isolation and socializing, you wanted to come together with other women to make sure that you had that community, and that's the beauty of it, and what we've needed for so long is to realize that the community has been suffering. When the family got ripped apart and they've ripped away at the family for years, when they start ripping apart the family, they start ripping apart the community. And all of this has been a blessing, because you got to look for the lessons and the blessings, and the blessings here is that people like you have come out, and you've got people waiting for people like you to come out to give them a lifeline, to show them some light, and to guide them into like-minded circles where they feel welcome and they feel like they've got that support, because that has been very thin on the ground for a lot of people. They've relied on the systems that were in place for that support, which has been everybody's downfall. We campaign about forced adoption, you know, so it's like this is for people like you, which is why I want to promote you guys, is that you're doing that, you're getting these communities to come together. I see the comments on your pages, and I see that people are so thankful just for the opportunity to come and meet up and be on the beach or be in the park and let the kids run around. And your husbands are welcome as well, aren't they? It's not you're excluding men on it.
Oh my god, totally. Yeah, I mean, we have like loads of men come, absolutely, like, and that's what it's all about, and the kids need that. And like, kids are being failed like last year in the last 12 months, and it has to be normal for them. They need that connection. Like, our government knows the risks of isolation, and literally people have been isolated for like a whole 12 months where they've not seen people. Like, when you are isolated from other people, it creates negative thoughts, negative emotions, emotions like fear, hurt, anger, sadness, loneliness is a really big one. Like, isolation creates mental health issues. It creates potential suicide. Like, I have literally seen it firsthand because I help children with their mind health, and I have had children who are self-harming, children who have attempted suicide, children who are riddled with anxiety. I've seen a little boy on Thursday, and his problem was a 10 out of 10 in terms of debilitating, where he literally is worried about everything and anything. Like, when he walks up the stairs, he's scared in case somebody jumps out on him, and now has Tourette's on the back of isolation.
This isn't just from isolation, though, because when I was working within the education system, the amount of young people with mental health issues, with anxiety more than anything else, and the education system was doing a lot of that damage. A lot of it was the anxieties were bred from the education system that they were forced into. And I think I saw a lot of damage within families because of that system, because parents are put under so much pressure, and over the years they've chipped away at parents' rights and roles in the children's lives, especially with education. And I think, Sarah, you're a young mum, aren't you? You've got young children, have you? Is that right? Yeah. So with that, because you weren't a life coach before you started this group. So what was the kind of the moment that you thought?
Sorry, jump in for me. Sorry, it's jumping, so I've got a little bit lost off there. But I'm definitely not a life coach or anything like that, but I've been through my own experience of mental health problems. I've been labelled as bipolar in the past, so I do understand how others feel when they're feeling isolated, when they're feeling they've got no one to talk to, when they feel like if they speak out they're going to, because obviously I've been through that. And I also wanted to tell people that, you can't beat it. It's not going to hold you down forever. So no, I'm definitely no life coach, but I definitely have life experience. And I just wanted to make a point of saying that I'm not trying to be a leader. I'm not trying to be a public speaker. I'm not trying to influence anybody. I'm just trying to create friendships within the community so that, when things happen, we can all help each other. We can you know, we can buy from each other, we can support each other, we can meet in the park. Because I do think that things are probably going to get a little bit more intense. It's not, you know, coming to an end by any means. I think it's actually going to get a lot worse. So, you know, we've got to prepare for that, and we've got to research and look into that. And that's why the group is great, because everyone researches together, and then everyone builds all their things, and we can all make links and, you know, find out if what the truth actually is, or try anyway. That's what I mean.
But that's the beauty of it, Sarah. Like I was saying, you're not trying to be a leader or influence anybody, but what you are is you're just a mum. Well, not just a mum. You're a mum who feels passionately about the future for your children, aren't you? And you want other people that think the same to come together to give you strength in numbers, really, in that. You know, the more people that can see it, the stronger you become, and the safer your children are, because then you can affect change in those areas. When you're all shouting, this isn't good enough, we want better for our children, then somebody at some point has to listen, don't they? So you're an example for the ordinary mum on this, you know, who doesn't think of, you know, I want to wave my own banner or anything, but you want what's best for your children. And so for other people in other communities, because I would like to see groups like yours in every community up and down the country, where other families can tap into your network and know that whatever interests they have, or if they've got children, or if they're just lonely, that there's somebody there. The regular people, the citizens in the villagers, the townspeople that they live amongst are there for them. Do you know? Because that's what we're really missing. That community. Nobody knows the neighbours anymore, and I remember a time when we knew all our neighbours. I'm luckily living in the house I grew up in, so I still know half my neighbours, most of my neighbours, but lots of people don't, and especially when you're isolated like you are.
Definitely. And I think when people are judged a lot more now. So when you speak out on Facebook and things, you're judged for it, and then they put you into little categories, and if you're not going along with everybody else, then you're looked at as a bit like, how can I put it politely, like maybe a little bit nuts, maybe a little bit out there, when in fact you're not. You just like look into things a bit more than others actually bother themselves to look into. So yeah, I would love to see the group go up and down the country, and for everybody to make their own groups. I have been trying to encourage that a lot, and I think some women are actually starting to do it. So let's hope that more like join in and get involved with that as well. Yeah.
It's like my daughter, she's pregnant, and she's in a group with mums that are due around the same time, so they chat to each other about how the pregnancy's going, things like that, and she's found that the midwives have just caused her more stress. They've been useless, really, and so she's had that network of mums to be, although she's already got 2 children, she's not new, but it's just support, isn't it? And that's what they're using the internet to shop and everything else now because of lockdowns, but actually they can use that to get that support as well, and that's where we can use it in our favour, as much as it's used against us, as much as it is. But what about the life coach?
We met. This was the first.
Go on, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking to me there for a second. It keeps lagging for me, so I'm just trying to jump back in. Sorry, Claire, you speak, sorry.
Sorry, no, connection is hugely important, because when, for children and for adults, because when you have that community, when you've got the connection, you feel loved, you feel supported, you feel like you've got a sense of belonging. Now, obviously, the government knows the risks of isolation, and then the opposite of that is connection. And so, if you think about what's happened these last 12 months, and I'm sorry, but you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to start to think like things aren't adding up right now. But if you look at the last 12 months, if you think about all the scientists that are whistleblowing on it, like they were saying things like, you know, there isn't anything to worry about. You know, we should be boosting our immune systems with vitamin D, C, zinc combined, get plenty of fresh air and sunlight and exercise. And obviously our government told us to do the exact opposite to all of that. So that was when community was then took away from us. Which is just horrific, because then, you know, if your only narrative is the mainstream media, then, you know, you're going to be living your life in fear. And obviously when you have fear run through your body, that suppresses your immune system as well. And obviously we have a fight or flight response mode, and of course you need that. We need that, you know, to live, but we're not supposed to be living in it for a long time. And for a lot of people, they've been living in it for 12 months, which is really, really serious for their health. And of course our government knows that. So, you know, what we're wanting to create is just the community that we should have always had. But I think going back to what you're saying in terms of taking the positives, like I've had a great 12-month. Like, you know, we have honestly lived our best lives, doing exactly what we want when we want, like living a free life, because we have unalienable rights to live our life as we choose. And I think, you know, I haven't watched the news for like 7 years, because I know it's all lies and propaganda. The only news I do watch is UK column news, for anyone who actually wants to understand what's really going on. UK column news is just brilliant, because they've been calling this out throughout. So I think for people who perhaps are like living their life in fear and have been worrying, just take a step back, turn off the box, and, you know, find yourself some friends who are like-minded, and just get out there and have some fun, because that's what it's all about. Like, we forgot like what it feels like to be happy, we forgot what it feels like to have fun, and so we're just bringing all that back in through the community, and the kids just love it. Honestly, the kids are like, oh my god, this is the best day ever, and we're like, hell yeah, we've got plenty more of them planned. So it's just lovely.
So what are your plans, Sarah? What do you do with your group, so that you can explain to people that maybe want to set up their group? And you say you meet up every so often, and you have like a social thing, or you explain what you do and how your group works.
Okay, so I've only actually set the group up 5 weeks or so ago, so it's all very quite new. Basically, my plan is to meet weekly or fortnightly with your children, so that we can go out, we can talk to each other, get to know each other, make friends, the children can socialise, and then obviously on the Facebook group, everyone can chat on there, get to know each other, build up the courage to actually come, because I know obviously it only starts off small, and then more and more people will start to come, and you know, the meets can get better and bigger, and we can do more activities and plan more things. Like, we do intend to plan to go shopping maskless together, because I know a lot of people struggle to take off the mask, more so because they're not confident enough to take it off, not because they think that it's actually helping them or protecting them, but because they think that other people are going to shout them down or whatever. So I'd like to support people to go shopping without the mask on, just basically just to come together and be friends, really. And then I'd like, obviously, other groups to form up and down the country, so that other communities can have the same thing, and then obviously we can all come together and be connected instead of the divide that they wanted us to be. We can actually reconnect more so than before it all happened. So it's kind of like win-win a little bit. That makes sense?
Yeah, and the winners in this situation at the moment are the big corporations, aren't there? And I think when you come together like a community like that, you can help each other build your own businesses back up. You know, in the face of everybody kind of small businesses going under, when you support each other in the community, you're networking all the time, aren't you? You know what I mean? You can decide amongst yourself how you want your community to look and feel and be, and work on building that up together once you've made those connections. And especially young parents, because they're, you know, they've got the future to plan for. So yeah, I think it's great.
That's exactly what we do with Empowering Women. So, you know, we're a group of about 30 women who are all wide awake, and we just support each other in business. So we have everything from, you know, hairdressers to life coaches to beauticians to people selling perfume, soaps, like literally, you know, every kind of profession, and just supporting each other within the community. So, you know, if you've got somebody's birthday, we'll buy off one of the girls. If we've got Mother's Day coming, we'll buy off one of the girls. And because we know,
Yes.
obviously, part of the plan is to crash small businesses, which is just really, really sad. Like, you've seen it where there's businesses have literally had to close the doors after like 20, 30, 40 years. And it's up to us to make a stand and support our local businesses. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's almost like we have to create a new society for those of us that don't want to be given the poison and are willing to swallow it. You know, it's that's the way we're going, isn't it? I mean, our goal is to try and set up a network of alternatives to the social workers, you know, so parents can go to other parents for advice, other people that actually care for advice, rather than thinking they have to go through these government bodies as they are, because so much damage is being done through these systems. It's just gathering data on people. There's no trust involved, and I think we need to build that trust back up, don't we, in our communities, and groups like you. I'm just reading. Awesome, great idea. Yeah, groups like we were talking earlier with one of the guys back in the background about community allotments and things like that, so you can all get involved in growing your own food and stuff, you know. All of these things, these ideas are there, and it's going back to basics really, before all this technology where, you know, they can control you by cutting your bank account off with just a flick of a switch. Really, it's what do you go to when that happens? You've got to prepare for that, haven't you, and bring that community together. So
Well, that's exactly what we're doing around being self-sufficient. So we've got like one of the girls who's literally doing that. So she is literally growing her own organic fruit and vegetables. So we'll be buying off her. We've got one of the girls who's just getting chickens. So we're buying eggs off her. You know, so it is literally, yeah, absolutely. And it's also that thing around, you know, we don't wear masks. You know, why would we restrict our oxygen flow? You know, the one God-given thing we've been given is to breathe oxygen. So why would we do that? We just wouldn't. So we don't want to be going to businesses where they're inflicting ridiculous rules, you know, hand sanitizer every 2 minutes and wearing masks and you know, all that type of stuff. So we just won't. We will literally support the businesses who are awake, and I think that's just really, really important. And so, you know, you are going to have people who just want to go down that route and, you know, get vaccinated and all that type of stuff. That's absolutely fine. But we've already got like a really big community who just want to live like normal lives and like have the freedom, and that's exactly what we're doing, and it feels good. And
you'll be able to see us smiling while we do it too, won't you?
Well, this is the thing, like everywhere I go, everyone's like, oh my God, you've got a beautiful smile. I'm like, it's just because you don't see anyone else's.
I knew many years ago with working in the school system when the child and adolescent mental health services stopped acknowledging attachment. They weren't commissioned to work with attachment anymore. That was the answer to the question I got when I was working with a child that I felt had some attachment behaviours. They weren't commissioned to look at attachment anymore, which I thought was quite bizarre, because the whole of my basic training on child psychology and relationships and family and all the rest, attachment is at the heart of it, because that's what that creates the bond. It you know, our, like you're saying about fight, flight, freeze responses. If we're secure, then they come into action when we need them. We're not on high alert all the time because we've been traumatized, and there's just been too much trauma in the world at the moment, and we have to bring that back around. We have to tip the scales back into our favor, and I think we have to do that on small scales, but in many numbers, scattered around the country. And like guys like you doing what you're doing in small groups, they grow. And then people go, well, I can't travel, but I can do that in my own town. And look, that was just Sara. She's just a young mom that cares, that's what I am, so I can do what Sarah's doing. And you know, they've got people like Claire in the group who can give me some advice, and there's somebody else that I can buy my fresh produce, that I don't have to worry about the pesticides in the supermarket. And this is how we create these communities that I've been praying for since I started down the rabbit holes. Do you know what I mean? I've had a big illusion stripped away, because working in those systems, you see things and you don't understand at the time, but when you look back, you go, that's why. It's been the long game, and now we have to start repairing that with a better energy, don't we? And it's now is the time for the ladies to come out in numbers and start feathering the nest of our community, if you like.
Yeah,
absolutely. And like, sorry, go on, Sarah.
Oh no, it's just all about obviously spreading some more love, raising the vibrations. That's what I've just learned lately. Obviously, other spiritual women in the group have told us to get into crystals and raising vibrations and art. I'm absolutely loving that. So we do need to share that a little bit more as well. Because I actually work in mental health as well. And it's really, really sad for me to see the residents that I absolutely love and care for not being allowed to do what everybody else is allowed to do, like go and visit their own families or have their own families come and visit them. The people I work with actually don't have, not all of them have that close-knit family, because the backgrounds are alcohol and drugs and things like that. So the ones that are actually pining for to see their mum or to see their children, it's really horrible, and I don't like being a part of that. I don't like saying to someone, well, actually, you're not allowed to go and see your mum. So I actually encourage them to say, well, it's actually not my choice, it's actually your choice. It's your choice. If you want to see your mum, fair enough, I've given you advice, you could be breaking the rules, but it's your choice, it's your life. And honestly, looking lately, like some people are really starting to get affected by it, by being locked in. And I just hope that, you know, soon, like people can move around a little bit more freely. The ones that don't understand why the lockdown, I mean, like the people with mental health conditions like schizophrenia and, you know, drug problems, who actually think that they have to do what they're told. That's the people I'm worrying about as well. And I just hope that something breaks soon so that we can actually free the people and let people get on. But obviously it's not going to do that at the minute, but we need to push on so we can help that.
It's not so easy to explain to people with mental health problems like that live in fear anyway and confusion, that they can just say no. I mean, we can just say no because of rational thinking, but when you've got fears already and mental health problems, it's even harder, isn't it, to try and give them some consolation, really, and help them understand that it's just the government trying to control us. And really, when everybody says no, this ends. You know, they can't keep everybody in. They haven't got the manpower. But there's so many people being hypnotized by the TV. I'm like you, Claire. I don't watch TV, so you know. And I learned a long time ago that those people that they tried to discredit or shut up were the ones that you had to listen to, and because there was a reason they tried to discredit them or shut them up. So it's been learning to have a bit more discernment, really, with the facts and the truth, and make your own. Use your intuition, because, like you say, you don't have to be a conspiracy analyst. You just have to know there's something not right about it, and also care enough about what your future for your children's going to look like if you don't stand up and speak.
This is the thing, and I think especially, you know, with women, we are like absolute freedom fighter warrior bears here. Like, I mean, we are standing up for our kids and their future freedom and their normal life, and there's flipping no chance that I would not do that. And I'm like all the way. Tommy is 5-year-old. He has lived a normal, free, happy life as always, and has done the last 12 months. He does not even know about like the virus. Like, he's not bothered. We've not installed that into him. The news would never ever be on. My husband does watch the news. I don't. He wouldn't put it on during the day though. And it horrifies me to see how terrified children are, like literally of human contact. I mean, we've been out up at the lake and kids literally jumping out of the way of Tommy. And that's horrific. I mean, that is so damaging. We are literally going to have a whole generation of children riddled with social anxiety and all other types of mental health issues. I mean, we were already in a mental health crisis before this time last year in adults and in children. And in 6 months of last year, mental health doubled. So this is the real crisis, mental health, not the current situation.
Definitely.
So many young people are taking their own lives as well. There's every week it seems there's my daughter's telling me, or other people are telling me that it's a young person that's gone missing or taken their own life because they just think what's the point? We can't go out, we can't go to music, we can't have live music, we're not supposed to dance or sing or do anything fun anymore. The sports are all, it does seem pointless to them or hopeless to them because they haven't got enough life experience yet to realise that nothing ever stays the same. And I always believe that the truth will out and good will conquer over evil eventually. You have to go through all the shit of everything just to come out the other side, I think, and realise the good bits. It's like all the shops being shut and people realising that they lived in a materialist world where they don't have to live like that. They don't have to be out every weekend buying things that they don't need because they've found that there's value in just being at home with your children or sitting and doing your gardening or going for a walk by the river or picking your dog for a walk or the simple things in life that the same as home education. A lot of parents, I don't like the system. I would encourage parents to home educate if it was damaging their relationship with their child, but they always fear that they can't do that. They won't be able to educate the child and they wouldn't pass an exam. Well, most of them kids weren't going to pass an exam anyway, or they'd opt out of taking them because they weren't engaging with the school and they were never going to get the results that they claim that they need to get on. So they're better off at home learning some life skills, learning things that's actually they're driven towards because it's their kind of, we all have a calling, don't we? We all have things that we lean towards in life, and it's just helping that child to find what that is for them, what they're interested in, whether it's engineering or whether it's science or cooking or whatever it is. Parents, I'm hoping, have realised that they can teach their children these skills at home. They don't have to be sitting in that classroom being brainwashed and dumbed down from who they are as a toddler to who they become as a teenager. It's cruel, really. What's that say? There've been as many suicides here on the Isle of Man. Yeah, it's terrible. People like you need to get that message out at local level, community level, that these young people, it's not as bad as what they've been led to believe. And wearing these masks, the parents need to stand up for the kids more and say, no, my child's not wearing that mask in school. I'm sorry, they're not. And you can sign a bit of paper. You want to stamp them with an orange sticker or an orange whatever, like giving them that the armband to say that they've refused the mask or the test or whatever. But I know people that have complained about that as well, and it's just so they can identify. But if they're not wearing a mask, just leave them alone anyway. They shouldn't have to wear a badge to identify the fact that they're exempt from wearing that mask. I'm not wearing it, end of. You don't need to ask me any more than that. I don't need to wear a sticker to show that I'm not complying. You can see I'm not complying. Leave me alone. And that's the attitude of parents. They need to have that attitude for their children in school. If the child can't do it, they need to do it. Well, they should be doing it anyway, really.
Absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of parents don't realise that a lot of this is just guidance. When they say like the laws and stuff, when you actually look into it, it's all guidance. Therefore, your kids do not have to wear masks. They do not have to have weekly tests. And as a responsible parent, like, you should be looking into what that looks like. You know, there was never any evidence to prove that kids should wear masks, that just wasn't. There's no science behind it. And, you know, Dr. Vernon Coleman has clearly stated, you know, we shouldn't be wearing masks for 2 hours, never mind 4 hours. And here we have got children wearing them for 6. And as developing lungs and brains, it is going to impact their lung and brains. And not brains, lungs and brain. And in terms of like the test, like it's laced with ethylene oxide. So, you know, if you've not had a little look at that, definitely do some research on that, because it's a carcinogenic and you don't want to be shoving that up your kid's nose. So it's really serious what they're doing to our kids twice a week. It's really, really serious. And, you know, I just urge people to do some critical thinking, you know, before you allow your children to be doing this every single day and twice a week in terms of the tests.
And if your DNA is changed, if your antibodies if the power of your antibodies is reduced by having been injected with the other antibodies, and which will only fight certain strains, when other strains come through, that antibody stops your antibodies working, so that other strain can get through, which means that, you know, you're basically genetically modified humans at that point, because you've altered your DNA and your ability to fight illness on your own immune system. So your antibodies are weakened by that. And so for me, I'm thinking my grandchildren, I'm going to be vetting their future prospective partners to see if their parents or grandparents had this injection, because you've got to be careful what you're saying, it, because then they're going to be contaminated and it's going to be in their DNA. And I don't want genetically modified great grandchildren. Do you know what I mean? There's things that you got to think about in the future that are happening now.
It's crazy. It's absolutely mad. I feel like half the time I'm in the Twilight Zone and it's never ending. It's actually quite like a horror film, actually. And if you want to do some research, you should really go and have a look at the Freeman Network, because they've got some really good videos on there about what's going on in those tests. And I actually tested some lemon water the other day, and the test came up positive. I wish I'd brought the test to show you, but the test came up positive for lemon water. So if you do a test, just test something, and you'll see that it's all just big lies. It's a fraud. It's crazy.
It's all just to sell their product.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, make money.
Just then it's to sell their product, isn't it? Really.
Well, it is, and this is, you know, what governments do, don't they? So government is a business ultimately, and they create a problem, and on the back of that problem, it's problem, reaction, solution. So they always have to then create businesses on the back of the problems, and guess what? There's so much collusion going on. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? How they're all getting away with it. I mean, there won't be. There's going to be some big stuff coming out over the next month, as we all know. But yeah, it is bonkers. I agree with what you're saying, Sarah. It feels like we're in like a bit of a nightmare at the minute. We just have to trust that everything is going to work through. But yeah, just urge people to do their own critical thinking, because it definitely feels like critical thinking's gone out the window. Like, even just common sense has gone out the window, hasn't it? And a lot of stupidity's become contagious. Like, it is like, yeah, crazy when you think about it.
And in Wales, they've passed some. I don't know if you've seen it, about the education for 3-year-olds, sex education for 3-year-olds, from 3 years old in the schools. So people have been campaigning in Wales against that. I mean, that's the state of things to come, isn't it? I mean, that's how bad it's got. That they think that should be that's okay. You know. Justified in some strange way that should be part of the curriculum in school. I wouldn't send my child to school in this day and age, really.
I know, it is scary. I'll give a shout out to my friends, actually. So Claire, she's a teacher and she's wide awake to everything that's going on, and obviously against the testing and the V and, you know, all that type of thing. And so she's looking at building an alternative school, so away from the indoctrination like a forest school type thing, where it's all like focused on fun and freedom. And there's just such a massive need for that now, isn't there? You're going to have such a massive community that are wanting to send their kids to this type of place.
And I do hope that, because my daughter works in a school, I do hope that a lot of people are fed up with it, and it's not the job they went in to do, really. If you want to teach children, it's not what you want to be doing, is what they're doing. And I don't know whether it's the academies and their new way of teaching, but I think there's genuine people out there, like you say, and I hope there's a lot of them that like the nurses and doctors and the police and everybody else that's got their eyes wide open, that don't want to be part of that system, can become part of the new system that can help us create the new system, so that we can all come together and create these new schools and these new social services type support networks, parent networks, mental health networks, all of these. And there are, I do see more and more popping up around the country now, with all the groups that are kind of involved with and everything. So it is working, and it is happening.
It is, and I think it's exciting. Like, so for me and my group of women, and then obviously what we call empowerment, we are focusing on the solution. So we can dig in a problem all day long, and when you dig in a problem, it doesn't make you feel good. So you can dig in the world's problems every day, it just won't make you feel good, right? So we focus always on the solution. So that's around the future we want to create for ourselves and our kids, and that is all around the fun, the freedom, the happiness, the joy, the connection. Like, that's where we are, and it just honestly feels so good. Whereas when we've got to move away from the fear, the lies, the propaganda, the masks, the hand sanitizer, the V's. We've been conditioned as a society in the last 12 months that your immune system doesn't work. Like, it's an amazing thing. We've got so much amazing wisdom in our body. It's about really getting in tune with it. But now we have a whole society relying on the healthcare system. Meds. Oh, I've got a problem. Let's just mask the problem rather than dealing with the root cause. I mean, it is honestly absolutely bonkers.
They make too much money out of it. That's the problem.
Oh yeah, it's worth more money keeping people sick, isn't it? Get them on the big pharma train.
I've had my share of those meds, and they're not nice. Definitely not. I definitely know how it feels for people to be given those medications and kept on them for as long as they can possibly keep them on. It's terrifying, actually, how it actually takes part of your soul away when you're taking them tablets. Like, you don't actually feel like yourself. You feel like you've had actually a chemical lobotomy. And I would really urge people to try and avoid any kind of medications prescribed for depression or bipolar or schizophrenia, if possible, because I know they do help some, but obviously they are quite intense medications, and you don't need to take them for the rest of your life like they tell you do. And
actually, I know people that have been on the medication that have actually committed suicide because of the medication. It makes the matter worse, especially when they've tried to come off them. And they're so easily given out, aren't they? They're so readily available to you. It's like, you can. Anybody can get a prescription for antidepressants. Anybody. You just have to go into the doctors and ask them for them, and you can have them. Do you know what I mean? It's basically that easy. And I get asked. I won't take pharmaceuticals. I mean, I've just had an operation. I had codeine and paracetamol. I wouldn't have anything else because I just don't agree with them. And I have fibromyalgia, and they were like, "What pain relief do you take?" And I was like, "I don't take any because I just think that causes another problem that I don't need. I'd rather sit in pain than have ulcerated stomach or lose my mental health, or it's like with the antidepressants, I know I can go walk in the woods for a couple of hours and I feel a lot better than I did before I went, even if I didn't feel like going in the first place. So there's things that as you get older as well that you can do otherwise, instead of just going and this is what I mean about using these systems, that you go to the doctors and you get a prescription, you go to the social worker, you end up losing your kids. These are the systems we need to avoid. Education outside, when kids are outside and they're learning and they're growing, and what better education to learn about nature and the world that you're living, and you know, how you can better look out after, take your personal responsibility for it, and love who you are in the body that you're in, not get confused in the education system about what gender you're supposed to be, or you know, medicating children for transgender issues and pushing that agenda, sexualizing children so they can normalize paedophilia. All of these things are going on. And, you know, I worry for my grandchildren. I mean, you've got children. I worry for my grandchildren because they push these agendas. So, and like I was saying, in Wales, 3-year-old, I think that's all right to be talking about things like that to children that are still wanting to play dress up. Do you know, it's crazy.
It is. It's terrifyingly, it's sad as well, that, you know, we can't even, our children just basically can't even go out there and go to play groups and, you know, socialize and develop, because children need to develop, and that's what's like the big problem for me at the minute, is them not being able to do that. There's some babies out there who haven't even been to a baby group or anything. It's so sad. So we need to create our own baby groups and our own groups for children to come to.
My daughter's telling me that the mothers, the young mums that she knows, because she's got an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old as well as one on the way, but the young mums there, with the nurseries, they're not allowing, they're putting what they consider quite healthy things in the child's packed lunch, or the things they know that they'll eat, and they're refusing to give them it, and telling the parent off when they're picking them up, and the child's like 2 years old. And it's like, how intrusive is that into the parenting of that child? You know, the parent should decide what essentially that child eats, whether they agree with it in the nursery or not. If unless it's a really big health risk, which I mean, I know in this particular case it wasn't, right? You know, but the dictatorship within that setting at such an early age. This is why they give you free placements at 2 and 3, because they want you to hand your child over to that system so they can indoctrinate them into just complying with the education system that they're going to be you know, traumatized by if they stick with it, you know, in most cases, because a lot of kids really and now there's no facilities. They were closing them left, right and centre when I was working in education. The facilities for these children that need extra support, they're all in mainstream school, not getting any real education because they try to contain them or manage them, or, you know, working on a lack of resources and not when it's not a facility for that need, then you haven't got the expertise that you need for that setting. So you know, the children are being let down right across the board, really. And the alternative education is absolute necessary, I think, must, because I think that's the worst thing. What's that say? Yeah, not going to playgroups. But what you guys are doing, these kids don't need to go to a playgroup, do they? Because you can come together as parents and let your children play together without the fear and the restrictions.
Exactly. Like, we're going to do Easter egg hunts and everything over the holidays. We're going to go to woods and just have loads of fun, just how it should be for the kids. No fear. Moving away from that 3D world just into happiness.
So what advice would you give to other parents and other people in your position for, it's early days, like you say, it's only been 5 weeks, but you've obviously got quite a following. I've come across you and I think it's great. I've added people to your group and things like that. So it's what would you say to people just to get started if they're a bit nervous about it?
About joining the group or about creating their own group? Do you mean?
Yeah, just joining, creating, you know, getting started really and coming together.
I think obviously coming to the group new and just waking up now is going to be like a little bit intimidating. It's always hard to make the first step, and you know, I've also had anxieties myself about meeting new people. It's not an easy thing to do. But once you take the first step, then you've done it, and you realise that once you like in it, you love it, and you're like, oh, I'm so glad I did this. I'm so glad I've met you, and then you meet that person, and then you can connect with that person. And I mean, you don't have to come to the group meets. You might just meet somebody that you've chatted to on Facebook and that you've connected, and you could just meet that person, and then you could slowly build that up. So basically just go for it. Just don't be held back by fear. Come and join and take part, because we're all really lovely and we're dying to meet you, and we just want to support each other and raise vibrations. And I'd love to see it across the communities and to grow further from the Northeast. I think if anyone's interested in contacting us, messaging us, I'd love to talk to you about setting it up in your own area, and I'll just let you know how I've done it. And it's not hard. It's just basically it's a little bit hard to keep up with all the notifications. I'm not going to lie about that. It's a bit like a full-time job, so sometimes I'm a little bit like, oh God, I can't keep up with this. But yeah, I think if you just make that first step and come and talk to us, you'll love it and you won't look back, and you'll really want to start your own. So I hope that helps a little bit. I'm not the best at speaking in these kind of things.
Oh no, really, you're doing absolutely fine, honestly.
You're doing amazing. Yeah, so same for me. Like if you if you are a business and you feel like you're needing some support, then feel free just to reach out to me. And we will obviously welcome you in with open arms, and like everyone's just so lovely. Like all the girls are amazing and support each other and buy off each other, and just support each other in life as well, because obviously the last 12 months have impacted everyone on different levels, whether that's in their relationship with friends and family. Obviously people have got different viewpoints, and obviously it is absolutely fine to have different beliefs. However, with this current situation, you just can't get away from it, because it's everywhere you go. So it literally is dividing like families and friends. So we're here for like everyone, in terms of like if you're having a down day, you can just let it off, and then we can get you back into a resourceful state and like raise your vibration, which is obviously really important, because I think people have stayed down in negative emotions for a long time, and that's what makes you bully. If you're down in sadness or anger for a long time, that's when you can start getting depressed. So it's all about just lifting each other up and supporting each other and just having fun, and it's okay to feel like a bit rubbish sometimes, because if you, on a score of like 1 to 10, like 10 being really rubbish, like this past year for a lot of people it's probably been about like a 19, like it's been pretty rubbish, and that's okay. But just knowing that like we are the light, we're shining the light on the darkness, and creating the future that we want. And because remember, what's the point in having a life if you can't live it? And it's really sad to see that so many people are that scared of dying, they've actually forgot how to live. So we're just bringing that all back.
Yeah, and I know that there's some mums around on my estate that they created the group based on the estate, the name of the estate, and invited people to come into that group. And so that like things like with the lockdown, what we're going to do at Easter, or what we're going to do at Halloween. Are we leaving sweets at the end of the garden, and things like that. So you can kind of create your own community in your housing estate, just by setting up a group and kind of putting questions out there to other people to see what they want to do on that estate and how they want to involve the kids and everything else. Because growing up as a child, we had the park and we all played out. We just played out. There was loads of us. All the kids that lived in the area on that estate all played together. Or you'd have a few punch-ups with a few gangs. You'd separate off depending on the size of the estate. But essentially, you just had your own areas, didn't you? That you could all just wander around. I know it's not as safe as it used to be when I was a kid many years ago, but it's like that's the feeling. My grandson said to me, he wished he was a child when I was a child, because I was telling him about all the freedom I had to roam around and go to the woods and play and just be outdoors, and so it just shows how much they miss out on that. So we get them out as much as we can, and like I say, this lockdown has giving people the opportunity to do that. It's like get them out the house, get them walking, and then you realise actually it's quite pleasant to sit around together in the garden or have a barbecue with your family and not be distracted so much with spending money somewhere or being at work all the time. So yeah, thank you ladies for doing what you're doing and keep encouraging people and sharing the positivity, and thank you very much for coming on. And if you do know anybody else that wants to kind of promote themselves or even just come on Children Matter News and tell their stories, because sometimes that helps people when they hear somebody's story and it's similar to their own, and they see how they've come through it, it restores a little bit of faith as well, doesn't it, that things can get better. So if you do know anybody that wants to kind of come out and share, it's always quite therapeutic for others to hear that, and we're always interested in what people, that it's your journey, isn't it? So we're always interested in what that is. So yeah, great stuff. Thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
I think Steve might come on now and finish the. Are you there, Steve? Who's in the background going to cut us off? What's it called? Most kids just want to play on computer games. Yeah, I know they do. You've got to limit the screen time.
Yeah, we've got at least another 5 minutes, give or take.
Oh, have we?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
right.
if you could push to just talk about.
There's some more messages there. Damon's saying thank you for all you're doing.
Thanks, Damon.
Do you want to put some more messages up then we can go through? Because I know there's a lot in the chat. People just wanting to say hello and that. Great work, ladies. That's Shani. I think Coleman. True for Sharon. Yeah, we've got to stick to the truth. It'll win us through. How many have you got in your group then, ladies? Do you know how many followers you've got now?
I think there's about 502 at the minute in Lionesses Northeast, which is great because it's only been going for 5 weeks. And I haven't been spreading the link everywhere. Like when I first started sharing truth, I would go to the Chronicle and I would fight them in the Chronicle, and then I would get enraged and storm around the house that people weren't agreeing with us or people were calling us names. So I've learned just to say what I need to say and then maybe just leave, like fly away and feel happy that I've said it. You know, so I haven't blasted the link everywhere in people's faces. But I do need to blast it out there a little bit more. So I think 500 for a few weeks is quite good because I was only expecting about 50 people or something to join the actual group. I wasn't expecting all of this. So,
and what area do you cover from? Is it just all up the northeast? What sort of area are you kind of reaching out to? I've done
all of the northeast. I've started with, because basically northeast is quite big as well. So I think communities within them areas can also build together. I didn't want to make it too small, like just Newcastle or just Sunderland or just Washington. So I thought we'd better to do the northeast. And then even other people could do their own little groups for Washington, for Sunderland, or for Newcastle, and then further afield kind of thing. So if you're in the northeast, come and join. We'll be lovely. We're all waiting for you. Yeah.
And another thing to say is it's that time of year, right? For you little groups that need a bit of funding and stuff, it's that time of year when councils want to impress you. And they get the new budget, don't they, the tax year? So, and then they're polling a month later. So it's time to get all these bids in for a bit of funding. So to get that word out to the group, see if they can hit the councils for a bit of funding to set up the groups against them. Alternative.
Do you think the council would fund something like what we're doing?
Well, it's worth putting an ask in, isn't it? You don't get if you don't ask, and if you set it up as a an activity or something, you can always put funding in for things, voluntary things. So you know, they want your votes. You should have a look into it. Be willing to help. But the kids are getting brainwashed in the school. I read that message earlier about things, but I think you've got a lot of support, which is great. So the men need to set up their group, don't they? The men need to get the boys' club going and get all these boys out playing football and put their skills to use, so fishing or whatever they can do as a group.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that
we
would
definitely need more awake men. I've got to say, where's all the awake men? It's only
We're
us
looking for the
Warriors here at the minute.
It is terrible. I have to admit, right? When I first started going out on the demos, I was like, it was all football guys because the terrorism and all the rest of it. And so I was like, come on, Red Pill Phil, he's part of our team as well. He was. I'm seeing on one of his videos, we need to get all these women out. Where's all the women? Come on, get out on the street. We're fighting for our children. And that was only a couple, like 3-4 years ago. So to see how many women have kind of taken, you know, the front position, like the likes of Dolores Cahill, who's now getting persecuted for speaking out. They try to discredit the poor woman who's, you know, she'll tell you her genuine reasons for speaking out. So don't let anybody discredit Dolores.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, so we can all say bye now. Steve said we're good now. We've done that hour.
Oh, thank you very much, Sharon. Thank you so much for having us on.
Thank you for coming on. Brilliant.
Thanks, Claire.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.